caused the uptick in mental problems starting to grow. In 2009, we started to see a growth of it. I'm not talking about what do we need to do about it now, but we have not always had this problem to the extent we have it now. And it is, as you said, it's becoming epidemic.
And I think
sorry. So what is it that is the driver that is causing? How many articles I've read about the executives in Silicon Valley do not allow their children to have iPads and iPhones, and yet we have our schools buying them every year new and forcing these on our kids. And all of the analysis is done says that the knowledge-based learning is declining with the use of electronic devices. So my question is there something we're doing in our schools that may be, I understand the problem with the families, there's no question about that. The word no longer exists, and the trophy for showing up for practice is set us on another course. But particularly around 2009, we made a major shift in education philosophy here in Texas and in the country.
Right.
In Texas, it snuck in under the time of C-scope. Nationally, it was Common Core. Now, we said you can't do Common Core in Texas, but we know that just, all that did was peel the title off of it.
Right.
And our books and our academic material is being used in the classroom. We shifted from mental academics and knowledge-based testing to a Common Core performance standard, where it was decided it was more important to mold personalities than through social emotional learning than to teach and test from knowledge-based academics like we've been doing. That's a major shift in what we're doing. So you tie that to the problems that come with everything being done on the blue screen. Would you see there's any contribution from that to the challenges that our young folks are having?
My name is Alice Linehan, and I am here representing myself, although I am Vice President of Women on the Wall. I'm here to speak as a mother of three. If you want to know why we are having mass killings in our school and why kids are committing suicide and have mental health issues, look no further than what is being legislated to be taught in our schools, how it is being taught in our schools, the online digital competency-based learning, and who is financially benefiting. Mental health issues in our children are being caused by the TEKS, the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, our state standards, which align to the college and career readiness standards mandated by the unconstitutional Elementary and Secondary Education Act, now known as ESA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, that replaced No Child Left Behind. Medications are being prescribed because of this. Texas students are being harmed daily because of them. I saw it in my own children, and I hope that you'll ask me to tell you what I saw. This is allowed to happen because each of you who took an oath of office are currently violating that oath by passing laws aligning Texas with the federal unconstitutional mandates in both WIOA and ESA in exchange for federal dollars. While elections divide us and unelected bureaucrats like Commissioner Mike Morath regulate us, and while Texas children are being shot in their classrooms, all of us are being controlled.
Ms. Linehan, I need you to wrap it up.
Okay. An outcome competency-based preschool through the workforce P20W system has unconstitutionally been locked in place, and each of you as elected officials, knowingly or not, are allowing this to happen. There has been, and this is the important part, there has been a complete shift in education away from the focus being knowledge-based, reading, writing, math, and history, giving all students an equal opportunity success in life to An education based on attitudes, values, beliefs, and behaviors. Then the question becomes, who decides the correct behavior outcomes? Whose values and whose beliefs?
Ms. Lanahan, I really need you to wrap it up.
Okay. While this shift has been happening for many years, and many of you behind the dais today may or may not know how we got here, Texas students are in harm's way, and you have the power to stop it. I pray that one of you will ask me to expand my 2 minutes and explain what I saw in my own children's classroom and what the reality is on the ground, how we got here, and how we can reverse course. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, Alice. Sarah?
Very nice comments. Good morning. My name is Dr. Peter Price, and I have been the Director of Social and Emotional Learning for the Austin Independent School District for the past 3 years. Prior to my current position, I was a campus administrator for 24 years and a teacher of 10 years. Austin ISD has worked closely with CASEL, the Collaborative of Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, for the past 8 years. As Ms. Conley just mentioned, our district is considered one of the national leaders in social and emotional learning. Millions of dollars of public and private investment has assisted us in our successful initiative across all of our 130 schools. From my research, personal experience, and conversations with other districts around the nation who have been implementing social and emotional learning for years, the goal of integrating social and emotional learning into academics, especially STEM, is typically the most challenging and final step in a social and emotional learning initiative. Despite employing 12 social and emotional learning coaches who interface regularly with 2 SEL champions from each of our campuses, our district is still working to master integration of SEL into our curricula. That's not a failure, but a recognition that social and emotional learning integration into academics takes years of staff training and planning.
Good afternoon, Chairman Thompson and members. My name is Wayne Sneed. I'm the Mental Health Supervisor for Austin ISD Police Department. I've served for nearly 37 years as a police officer. I've been a mental health supervisor within this department for 6 years. And during that time, we have 130 campuses that cover about a 235 square mile area of the city. I'm here testifying in favor of House Bill 10. This bill will help address 2 troubling trends that appear to be occurring amongst our students. Our school counselors are faced with daily crisis incidents that demands most of their time, which does not allow them to serve the students who have merely academic needs. The calls range from severe mental health crisis to completed suicide on our campus during school time. Suicidal ideations and other severe mental health issues among our youth appear to be increasing, and we're seeing this on the ground. For example, last year, 2017-2018 school year, suicidal ideations within our district were 878. Attempted suicides, 378. Non-suicidal self-injury, our cutters, 1,689. CPS referrals for mental health related issues, 875. Intensive counseling sessions, 4,815. Completed suicides, 6. This year, from August to mid-December 2018, our counselors and our staff have handled 1,300 suicidal ideations, 72 suicide attempts, 749 non-suicidal self-injury incidents, 875 CPS referrals related to mental health, intensive counseling sessions are 1,000. Age that this begins, the way we begin to experience our mental health crisis is drastically falling.
Thank you. My name is Alice Lenahan, and I am Vice President of Women on the Wall. Now that Governor Abbott and the Texas legislature has passed and signed into law Senate Bill 11, HB 18, along with Senate Bill 504, the framework is in place for federal funding for programs in schools implementing social and emotional learning behavioral wraparound services. In my packet to you, I've included a testimony in opposition to those mental health bills. I believe that it is relative and that it's important for you to understand the pushback against social emotional learning from parents across Texas. I have a question for you. Do parents and our elected officials realize the psychological data collected along with the interventions and assessments by charter schools as well as public schools, but specifically these charter schools with ties outside the United States means that these people, whether their intention is good or bad, can use social, emotional, psychological data collected to modify Texas children's values, beliefs, and behaviors. Is that what Texas parents send our kids to school for? There's two documents that I encourage you to look at in your packet. The Pioneer Institute's report cautioning against social and emotional learning, along with the Royal Public Charter Schools, a comprehensive report of the Harmony Schools. And because the former CEO, Soner Turim, was a part of Harmony and has now started the Royal Public Schools, I encourage you to read that document. And according to the Broad Center New Leaders Cohort, Soner Turim is developing the Royal Public Charters as a national public charter school program. That's very important. As I have said and will continue to say, the fundamental shift in education today is away from an education of opportunity, equal opportunity based on academics, reading, writing, math, and history, to an education of equity, equal outcomes based on attitudes, values, beliefs, and behaviors. Do I have 30 seconds left? 30 minutes. Then the question becomes whose values, beliefs, and behaviors? When education is focused on how students perceive the world, this is known as critical theory or cultural Marxism. As noted in the Pioneer study, SEL will further erode the fundamental rights of parents to control the education and upbringing of their children due to an unjustified expansion of the schools beyond their basic mission of academics. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cortez.
Thank you all for coming out. You know, as you all were talking and giving us your testimony, I appreciate some of the insight that you've shared. While I know my particular reasons for not supporting the charters out of committee, I do have a question for you, and just for clarification purposes. Did I understand that you don't support social and emotional learning? Is that what I understood?
It is correct, but I'd like to clarify something. I'm a product of Texas Public Schools. The social emotional learning that you received, that's what great teachers do. That we've always had great teachers who have pushed us, and I would call that social emotional learning. I support our public schools, our traditional public schools with locally elected school boards. I am in opposition to these charters because the difference between a charter school and a traditional public school is that local elected representation. If my child was at Austin ISD and I didn't agree or there was an issue, I could go to that school board. There's people I can go to. If we collapse, which I believe is the goal of all these public-private partnerships and school choice, if we collapse that system, that traditional public school system, we eliminate the ability for me to live in an area where my kids go to school based on our zip code, and I have a locally elected school board that I can work through.
So, just, I guess, to try to summarize what you said, and then I have a follow-up real quick. You don't believe that we should be approving any charter, period, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so I'm just curious, and again, I already know my reasons, but you said it in your statement. I just want clarification because you kind of put it out there for whoever's listening. You have a question here that says, do parents and our elected officials realize the psychological data collected along with the interventions and assessments by these charter schools with ties to outside of the U.S. states? Outside of the United States means these people, whether their intentions are good or bad. What does that mean? What does that mean to you?
Well, when we set up our statewide longitudinal database system, that system was in place to collect academic data to make sure that we were not leaving any child behind. With the push for social emotional learning as a program and for assessments to shift to the formative, where it's not summative, end of course, 2 + 2 is 4. When they're formative, that's more of a surveillance. That's more
What
of a
about the part where you
monitoring.
put these people? What does that mean?
When you have outside entities who have access to that psychological data on Texas children, and we know that the FERPA law was gutted in 2012. The law wasn't changed, the rules and regulations were changed to say that our children's private data can be collected without consent in the name of research. That opens the door for any third-party entity to have access to that data, that psychological data. And what we know as well is that Congress passed FEPA, the Foundations for Evidence-Based Policymaking, in 2019, which makes legal the interoperability of all of these agency databases. As a parent, for my child's data to be out there in...
Are you referring to the third party as federal government?
Well, when there's public-private partnerships, I see a real issue with that.
I guess my follow-up to staff would be, to what extent is this information accurate, Debbie or Heather? I'm just curious. I've never heard this. That we can share information with a third party.
I'm not.
Are any of you aware of this? Is there something
I
that's...
am aware of some of it. I'm not as well versed as our panel seems to be, but I am aware of, certainly I think the data is masked in terms of shared data for research purposes, and that is the extent of what I have read.
We'd have to ask Vaughn or Chris, and they're not here.
Can I add to that? The other federal law that impacts this is WIOA, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which basically binds education under the Department of Labor, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Defense, and Department of Education. And I can send you these documents for verification and to look into it. I encourage you to. In the WIOA documents, it says that it needs to be drilled down to the individual level. That to me means there is a national database on students from womb to tomb, from pre-K through the workforce, and that data will follow that child for the rest of their lives. To me, that's very concerning, and when there's third-party entities like Royal Charter Harmony, that data is open. In my opinion.
And is that true of any ISD currently?
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why, and if you look in the testimony against Senate Bill 10, and I'll tell
Yeah,
you.
when you mentioned that, that's all. I'm just asking.
There's also a letter, I'll email it to you, I didn't print one for everyone, but there was a coalition letter of 130 separate organizations across Texas in opposition to Senate Bill 10 and Senate Bill 11 and all of these wraparound services. And in that letter, cautions about the data collection and the fact that it goes beyond people who are working in a school district that know and care and love that child. When this type of data is out there, we need to, I think it's your responsibility to be.
So you're saying it applies to all schools specifically? All right, I think Ms. Perez-Diaz has a question.
Debbie had a.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to caution you that we're going a little far afield
Right.
from your post.
We are, yeah. So let's get back to the charter applications and questions for our testifiers.
I'll find a way I promise this will circle back around to what we're speaking about. I just want to state, having worked in child welfare, having understood and seen a lot of children who need support, I think that there's it seems like there's a huge misunderstanding about the difference between SEL and social work and mental health supports. When you have mental health support, when you have social work, that's when data is collected. Social emotional learning is very different. There are huge distinctions about that, and I think that it matters in terms of training, and that's a critical piece in any public education institution. So there's that really needs to be stated, because I think that what was just being said is completely inaccurate. And I think
to your point, that's why having a third party like Royal Public Schools that's not held accountable to a locally elected school board, in my opinion, is an even more dangerous path. If they're going to get into that business of those type of wraparound services.
And I think so. What I will say is, any school that's educating a child really needs to understand all of the students that are in their classrooms. And I think that that's a critical piece in terms of when we're talking about how we engage around the community and how we engage with our families. So I think I don't have a question. I just wanted to make the distinction very, very clear that there is a difference between social emotional learning, social work, and mental health counseling and support.
So in the long-range plan for public education approved in November, the State Board of Education is recommending that the state supports what we call an MTSS, and that's a multi-tiered system of support for all students. The SBOE recommendation states, TA and the legislature financially incentivize an integrated and data-driven academic and non-academic multi-tiered system of support on every campus to identify and connect all students with appropriate support services, including supports for behavioral health, mental health, and intrapersonal effectiveness. The other part of it is that TA and the legislature financially incentivize an integrated workflow management system to enable the identification of students needing support, increase the effectiveness of school counselors, which also aligns with the governor's school safety plan regarding freeing up counselors and adding more resources to counselors, and monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of support services. So there are two parts to this recommendation. The what, which seeks to endorse a framework to support all children comprehensively through the multi-tiered system of support. And the second part is the how, which seeks to emphasize that in order for successful adoption of MTSS for a workflow management system that has the goal of systemizing support, tying indicators such as academics, behavior, attendance with support providers in a dashboard-like system. So what is MTSS? Some of you might ask. In describing it, I'm going to lean on the work of a nonprofit called Understood along with the American Institute for Research. It's a framework that helps districts improve the performance of all students by identifying needs early on, modifying academic and non-academic interventions quickly. It's a comprehensive system that screens all students and provides interventions that can be intensified if needed. It's real-time support, not wait to fail. At Pro Unitas, we kind of lean on, it helps identify, connect, monitor. The word MTSS is often used interchangeably with, frameworks that you're familiar with, such as response to intervention, which is more academic focused, or PBIS, positive behavior support, which is more behavior. MTSS bridges the silos and brings these systems together. In other words, MTSS is not just help with academics, but also integrates the behavioral, the social, emotional, and interpersonal aspects.